Hello, Agatha and Frederick. Good morning. Well, good afternoon.
Yes, afternoon.
Hi
How are you
guys,
doing?
how are
Hello,
you?
how are you? Fine, thanks. How are you, James?
Doing well, thank you.
Um, yes, James.
So, what we'll do, Frederick and Agatha, I'm sorry, my gosh, I'm a little bit tired. We're going to start over. Frederick and Mudasana, I'm going
Yes.
to introduce you to James. I think you just did yourselves. I am going to let you lead the interview. I'm going to be quiet, and only if I feel there's something important to say am I going to say something. Okay? So I'm going to put myself on mute and I'm going to make my face disappear. And you've been working so hard on getting this together. I'm sure you're going to do great. Okay?
Right. Yes.
Thank you. Hi guys, so I will let you guys take it from here with
Okay.
questions and so on. Pleasure to meet both of you.
Oh,
Pleasure to meet you too.
How is the weather in Lusaka?
no, it's a bit warm. Yeah.
Same here.
Outside.
So, so we'll talk about climate change. I'll let you guys take over from here with questions.
Okay. Yeah, we are happy to meet you, James. Yes, and as Elena has already mentioned, we are here to know more about you. Yes. So, and one of the things that we want to know about you is where did the passion for journalism come from? As we know, you are a photojournalist. So, like, where did you get the passion you have for for your work? Yes, of a photojournalist.
Interesting. Well, I've always been interested in different cultures, and coming from the U.S., we're a colonial culture, and I was always curious about the indigenous cultures and the names of places that were indigenous names as well. So I was always interested in that. I would combine that with a particular thing to my family. I was raised by an uncle. I'm English and French by my background. He was Italian American, and it was a new culture for me. His son, you have to follow me on this, is actually my cousin, but he was like my brother, and he married a woman from Italy. And I started traveling to Italy. I had the chance to do that, and I was very curious to learn more. At the same time, I was taking photographs, and I wanted to record a narrative about what I was seeing, to help remember things, to increase understanding, and that's kind of the basis of the seeds of becoming a journalist, was basically curiosity about the world.
Okay, so that's interesting. Now, how did you come to like merge your work of being a journalist and also having passion for conserving nature? How did you merge those two?
Well, it was a long process. For many years in the U.S., I did two jobs. After my university time, I was working as an assistant to photographers in Los Angeles and New York. And it was incredible training, learning about the technical side and how to deal with and photograph people. In the meantime, I was doing stories on my own, but things didn't really start happening until I received an opportunity to move to Japan. So this is 1993. It's quite a long time ago. And I took a job here. I had experience in photography. I knew what I wanted to do, and this offered an opportunity to go into another culture. And every moment I had off, I would go onto the streets of Tokyo and make photographs. And this is, again, it was 1993. I never thought I would live in Japan. I loved it here. And also China, which is very close. It's a 2-hour flight, was waking up. And I took a trip over there, and it was a completely other world. It was a country that was in the midst, at kind of the beginning, actually, of major change. So I was able to photograph traditions, and I was able to photograph the transformation of that country. So I was very lucky to be in the right place at the right time.
Wow. And you chose journalism because, oh, so is it that it was your strength already that you chose it to be using it in disseminating information, or you just never liked other professions like which would help you to disseminate information?
Well, I wanted to do photography, and I was doing a form of photography called street photography, which is you go out on the streets and you photograph normal life, but amazing things happen. And in the meantime, I realized that as I traveled around, particularly in other countries in Asia, I was seeing an awful lot of pollution. So I imagine you want to go to a beautiful national park, and I landed, say, for example, in Manila, Philippines, which is all the Asian countries are very close. That's like for you going to maybe Botswana. It's a neighbor. And
Yes.
landing in Manila, it's a huge city, but in order to go to the beautiful place, uh, meant passing through highly contaminated landscapes. And that's when I realized at some point that the national park I wanted to go to was not the story. It was the story of people's lives in changing economies. And sometimes they were paying the price for their country becoming rich. And I saw this also in China, very similar thing happening. And I realized this is important because I saw the transformation in East Asia since the end of World War II. The world has never seen such transformation in the environment as we've seen in this part of the world. And no one was reporting this. So I thought this is an important story, and this is a story I want to tell.
Okay. And since you take photos to ensure that you spread information about climate change and also to let other people know from outside world so that what's happening in other countries. So now, do you have any measures that you would want to put in place, or you've put them already in place to ensure that you lessen those effects which you see upon capturing images about climate change effects and other impacts?
That's a good question. Mostly, I like to present evidence, photo evidence of what's going on. Um, Recently, I've been working with indigenous people who I've been working with, some of them 25 years. And I've watched forest people who live in the forest, lose their entire forest, and listen to their stories and the pain and disruption it's caused in their lives. And one, I have compassion for them. Two, they're my friends now. And three, it makes me angry. Um, I'll give you an example. You know, you have lions in Africa, many parts of Africa, not all. The big cat of Asia is the tiger. And I just went to Southeast Asia, Malaysia. They've cut down so much forest that the tigers are hungry. They have no food in the forest. They're coming down and looking for livestock, and they're killing people. And some of these people I knew already, and I would ask them, when was the last time your community lost a person to a tiger? And they used to laugh at me. It was something that never happened. Now it's happening, and no one's reporting this. This could be the local extinction of the Malayan tiger. So these are the kinds of stories I like to tell, and this is changing the climate. You know, I do environmental stories. Sometimes it's directly related to climate change. Other times, climate change is a part of that story. And in this case, all of that logging is drying out the climate. It's changing the climate, and the tigers are suffering from it. And also are the people, of course. So those are the kinds of stories. So over time, I would create focus stories. And then when I came back, I would ask myself, how can I do this story better? I think that where you are in Zambia, this is, you're in a savanna forest environment. These are the environment suffering most from climate change. And I think that you have a great opportunity to tell your stories from Zambia. You don't even have to leave Zambia to tell them. So I'd be curious in the future to see what stories you can tell about Zambia.
Okay, so James, do you intend to visit and know more about climate change impacts in other countries in Africa?
I would like to. I would like to do it a lot more, actually. The problem is it's quite far away. Um, I have done a couple of stories on climate change in the past. I did one in Cameroon, and it was an American company that was wanted to put an oil palm plantation, a gigantic one, in between 5 wildlife sanctuaries. And it wasn't my story alone, but by telling that story and many other journalists and NGOs, to my knowledge, that oil palm project never happened. That was fairly satisfying. I've been to Ethiopia, and also the thing is, Ethiopia and this area of Zambia, it's the Anglophone part of the country. The rest of the country speaks French. There are civil wars going on, insurgencies right now, so I can't go back. Certainly not to Cameroon, but again, they're quite far away. So I'm deeply interested in sub-Saharan Africa. I was to Morocco not too long ago as well. The Sahara is coming, just like you hear in the Sahel in the north, like Mali, Niger. The Sahel is coming south. Same things is going north too. So I think what's interesting from the point of view, say for example, Zambia, is it's of no fault of your own. It's these northern countries, U.S., China, Western Europe, and you are picking up the pieces for something you haven't done. And so I think that's a very important part of that story. May I ask you guys a quick question? What kinds of things are you seeing in your own lives? Are you seeing climate change, or is it getting hotter or drier, or are you seeing things like that in Zambia?
Yes, of course, things are worsening here because when you look at the production of crops for last year and you compare it to the one we just had this year, it shows that the situation is worsening because this time around people have resorted to start buying maize and it's very expensive. So for some people, it's not affordable.
Wow.
So, yes. So, and also the rainfall patterns have changed. The starting period delays, and also the period at which it ends is just too short.
Oh,
So it leaves out crops dying. As a result, now it affects the food security in our country.
So
that's scary. Sorry?
just to add up on what Frederick said earlier about how it's getting dry. So due to the drought that we are experiencing, the president said that it's a dry spell. So since people are not able to manage to buy food like mealie meal and all of the things, because like maize is our staple food, that's what we use to make our food. So that's why we're even having high rates of riots, crimes, because people are just angry
Wow.
because there's no food, and then it's like they feel like there's nothing that they are doing and that people are not doing anything to help them, so it's really bad here.
So I think a good this brings up a good point for the two of you if you're starting out and you want to document things like this, I'm talking about leaving Japan, but it's important to look at your own communities, right? So I should not omit the things that I do. I'll just give you an example. We're talking about this particular time. You're in the southern hemisphere, so it's your dry season, but we're finishing up summertime here. We've had the two hottest summers in history in Tokyo. And I went from, and we have something, Tokyo is a huge concrete city. The megalopolis is 38 million people. It's gigantic. I live in a place that has a few more trees, but I went out and the forecast would say, it's not cool, but it would say, today's going to be 37 degrees. And I'm like, no, that's not 37. I went out with a thermometer in the sunny part, 46. And I went in the shade, 39. That's hot. And it's been like that every day. So I think it's important to tell local stories. And if you hear something that doesn't quite sound right, then you can go out and investigate it yourself locally. Yeah, because there's a lot of interesting things going on in our communities. And sometimes it's easy to think about someplace else, but local stories are very, very important. And of course, you're going to know more about that place. So absolutely.
I have discovered that most of your photos are in black and white. Is there any significance about that?
That's interesting. Well, now I'm shooting color mostly. And for the first 30 years, I shot black and white film only, one camera, Leica M2 or M6, and a 35 millimeter lens, which is a little bit wide. And then right around 2015, film and I would print in a dark room, that all started getting quite expensive. So to be perfectly honest with you, I drove my wife crazy for about a year because I was looking at different cameras and none were quite right. But I found a Sony that I liked with a 35 millimeter lens, and I still use it. And I first thought, why don't I shoot black and white digital? It was a transition to digital. And then I thought, you know what? I like the color work I'm doing. Why not start a new chapter? So I can have Ilana pass on to you some websites, and you can see all of my recent work is in color, and you might find it interesting. It's a different point of view. Yeah, but I both are beautiful. I would say that black and white can be quite poetic, and it takes you a step away so that it's immediately more about the aesthetics of it. But color can be that way as well. But people are going to compare color to reality more than black and white. It's interesting. They'll consider black and white kind of artistic, more artistic than color.
Okay.
Right. So the same photos you've captured a lot and you've used them. So do you think there is so much efficiency in the way information will be spread about climate change to other countries just through photos?
I feel like the digital era now, because when I first started, it was always magazines, paper magazines. The reach is greater. What I try to do, and I would recommend that for the two of you, is I try to tell a story in a different kind of way, because people have seen a lot of stories. And I think a good way to think about it is telling personal stories. So say, for example, you've got a drought in the area of Saka, and it's one thing to show the landscape, but if you can document a family and they tell you and talk to you about and show you their life, people relate more with people directly. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a good way to get past this huge amount of images that are on the internet, as you know, because people can get a little bit blasé. They can think, oh, I've seen it all before. But if they see something new and different, done in a different way, they'll stop and look at it and pay attention.
Okay. So, yes, we've seen your passion in photojournalism. Now, we believe it's not that easy to do it yourself. You also have to involve others. So, like, have you taught some adolescents to be working with in your spreading of information through photojournalism?
So how do I do that? Well, originally it was a lot more difficult. It's easier now because you can transmit your stories the same way we're talking now over the internet. What I usually do is I do two things primarily. One is assignments, but I find the most important work I do is work I produce myself, and then I present a certain number of photographs and a story to editors. So the way to get into photojournalism business is first to create stories. It's good if you can write, it's much better. And then sharing those stories with editors. And one of the websites I'll share with you, the two of you, is where I post all of my stories. So I'm in Japan and they may be in New York. So I'll say to them, here are a couple of photos you can see in the email, and I've attached a Word file with the story. And here's a link to that website where I post the entire story. So that way, if you're in Lusaka, you can easily communicate with somebody in London or New York. And then if they're interested, they can see the whole presentation. So it is possible today to do what I'm doing from where you are. And I would not have been able to say that 20 years ago. So that's a very important difference because, to be honest, a lot of the stories we got 20 years ago were people like me going to Zambia, not you from Zambia telling the stories. And that's a very important change. I can't understand your country the way you do, right? So your voices are important, and this is a way your voices can be heard.
Have you mentored any children like us who would want to become like you?
I often do, actually. There are a lot of kids who are interested. I honestly, I have for example, I have an Instagram feed called Everyday Climate Change, and we'll have to make sure that you get links to all of these. And what that is people, a group of us, post photos or stories on climate change for this Instagram feed. For years, I've wanted to get more information from sub-Saharan Africa, and I have not been able to. So I think that people want to hear more stories from where you are, from people from there. So yeah. But I do get a lot of kids here in Asia, North America, Europe, who are interested in photojournalism, but very few from Africa.
Okay. So I have one last question. So what advice do you have for young people like us and others out there who would want to become photojournalists like you?
I would recommend that you don't have to have the best camera. I would recommend that you go out and make stories and find people who will advocate for you, who will help you, because all of us need help in the beginning. But believe in yourself, believe that your stories are important, and also when you're making stories, as I said, make them personal, but also be mindful, if you can, of how they connect to global issues like water, like climate change, like heat, like drought, fire, things that commerce even. That way, somebody far away can relate to what you're going through.
Okay.
Same goes for me,
So,
by the way. I work the same way. Sorry.
thank you so much for your beautiful answers. They were really inspiring. And I'm kindly asking if you also have some questions for us, for you to ask us.
Sure. Well, here, how old are you guys, first of all?
So I'm 15.
Okay.
Yes.
16. Okay, I thought you guys were 15 and Frederick is 16?
19.
19. Okay.
Yeah.
So Frederick, you're past high school age and you are in high school. So how did you, well, first of all, what are you, writers, or do you like to take photos when you are dreaming of doing journalism, or are actually doing journalism?
Well, I like both writing and taking photos. Mhm.
Yes, as for me, I like writing, but I would also want to learn how to do photojournalism, to go about it. Though I have partial idea about it, so I require some bit of advancement in the knowledge I have concerning photojournalism.
Yeah, I mean, for photojournalism, I mean, you could even do it with a smartphone now, or borrowing a camera or getting a decent camera. They're fairly inexpensive these days to get a start. Remember the camera I mentioned, using a Leica for many years, that was a 50-year-old camera. But during the film days, you could use that digital technology. It goes redundant a little bit faster. Um, so yeah, so I would say that finding a way to create the stories visually, but writing is okay as well. And learning how to interview people, um, impressing upon them that you want to get their story out and that their story is important and that it can be good. Um, what kinds of stories are the two of you interested in doing?
Uh, I am interested in doing climate stories, but also stories that deal with like child protection, such I can advocate like for human rights and stuff like that. I'm really interested in doing both climate stories and also humanitarian stories.
Very important. You don't have to do only climate stories, and I do a fair amount of human rights stories as well. So do be careful, don't get in trouble doing it, but they are very important stories. Frederick, what kind of stories do you like to do?
Um, Likewise, also, I like stories about child protection because I'm also in child protection clubs. So I do both relating to climate change and also child protection. Yes. So even at our school, there's a club called Child Led Movement, in which I'm the chairperson in that particular club, to ensure that I advocate for other pupils in the school. Yes.
Do you see either of you see journalism as a profession, or is it just something you're interested in and you think you might do something else as well?
Now, apart from what I've said,
Well, I'm thinking, I
yeah,
mean, would you maybe be a teacher or do another job, or would you like to do journalism full time?
I would like to do another job. I want to be a neurosurgeon and then
Wow.
I'll be a journalist. Yes,
Wow.
as well.
Well,
Yes.
see, that's another really a field with great potential, is journalism on medicine. So there you go. I mean, that would be a great issue from Zambia. People here would be very interested in that. So that would be a good combination.
Mhm.
Frederick, how about you?
yeah. with me, I only have passion for geography and science related courses. So I would go for medicine and also the courses that deal with the environment, especially like being an environmental scientist, yes, even being an ecologist, yes.
Interesting. Tabitha, if you were to do a climate story, environmental story in Zambia right now, what would you want to do? What would that story be?
Um, the climate story that I would want to talk about is mainly about how people are suffering, especially due to the droughts that we have. So I would like to talk about how the changes from the way we had rain and then now we don't have rain. So I would like to take pictures and maybe write a short documentary about how people have been suffering the effects, the changes, what people are planning on doing, what they think they should do so that they can lessen maybe the effects or maybe if they can lessen the impact on how they are feeling right now. That's what I would like to talk about.
Hmm. Who do you
Yeah.
think in Zambia is most affected in by the change in the rain patterns? Who do you think is most affected?
I think it's everyone because if I start from the farmers are the ones who farm for us, and then the farmers take them to the manufacturers will take them to the shops, and then people will buy. But if the farmers don't have, that means even the shops and the manufacturers won't have anything. That means everyone is going to suffer, including us, the people who buy the things from the shop. So this
Sure.
climate change is just troubling everyone in Zambia. Like the whole country is suffering from this climate change.
Do you have a
Yes, and
lot of
also
herdsmen as well, pastoralists in Zambia?
Yes, we do, but due to the same issue of droughts, there's less grazing land, so a lot of animals have been dying, which is also
Wow.
very bad because animals are dying, there's no food. It's bad.
and
Yeah,
also
imagine. Sorry. Go ahead, Frederick.
yes, to connect the issues I talked about of child protection and also climate change, they go hand in hand because when you look at the impact which climate change has on especially uh, children who are school going, especially we find that girls, instead of them being sent to school, they'll be married off simply to ensure that parents get food from uh, families that are doing well because of the same impact of climate change. Then
Wow.
boys, instead of them being sent to school, they would rather be sent to other industries where they will bring food for the family, and that puts the future of the child at risk. Yes, that's how I think they are connected, the two of the things.
That's
Mhm.
interesting. I mean, maybe in Lusaka you have a fair amount of migrants from the countryside who had to leave because of climate change. So that's a lot. And see that's something I can tell you that I've never seen reported. That would teach us a lot about the culture there, the arranged marriage, and also how people are forced to migrate to the city
Mm-hmm.
because they can't raise animals or the farm is failing because of lack of rain. So um, that's interesting stuff, guys. So I think that you have a lot of potential work that you can do, and people be interested to hear it, to see it.
Yes.
Yes.
And then, like, when the people move from the villages or from the rural areas and go to the city, since they don't have, there's less jobs, like, there's less employment because there are a lot of people who want to work. So they decide to start stealing and fighting. That's why we have also some sort of high crime levels because of the same climate change. So it's really bad.
Wow. Yep, that these are the stories of our time. So I would love to hear maybe sometime in the future if you guys decide to go out and do some stories. I'd be curious to see what you get. That would be absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm. We definitely show you.
How is life for you are both of you from Lusaka originally, or did you move there for school?
So I'm from Lusaka, but then my school is in Chongwe. That's where we learn first.
So that's
Yes.
how far is that away from Lusaka?
Hmm, 2 hours drive.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's tough. So you're away from your family then.
Yes.
That's not easy. When I mentioned reporting in Malaysia and some of the indigenous people, some of the kids 5, 10 years old had to leave their parents for months at a time to go to regional schools, and that's got to be really, really tough for a kid.
It is.
Yeah, yeah. Frederick, where are you from originally?
Pardon?
Where are you originally from? Your
Uh,
birthplace and family?
from actually, we are from the rural part of the Lusaka province, Chongwe. It's a rural part of Lusaka province. So it's like just like my colleague has said, it's a 2 hours drive for us to move from here to where we came from. Yes.
Fantastic. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for doing this interview. Through Ilana, I can get some of the web links to you that I mentioned. And I would also be curious, because my contact is on my website. I'd be
Yes.
curious to hear how things go with you. Please do keep in touch because I'd like to hear about your stories and how you're doing.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you. I don't know if Ilana's still here. I'm going to check.
Oh, I'm
There you
here.
are.
I'm
Okay.
here. Hi. Um, I'm gonna just ask a question and then Mudasana and Frederick, you can take over. But I want to ask James to share his artifacts that
Oh,
he brought
okay.
with us. We can backtrack a little bit and remember, because some of the clubs can't get on the internet to hear and see the video of this interview, there'll be a transcript and there'll be some photos. So it'd be nice to hear about your artifacts. And when James shows his artifacts, Mudasana and Frederick, please, you ask questions. I'll be quiet again.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey guys. Th these are kind of I'm on an iPhone, sorry. I'm gonna whoops, get you guys bigger. Can one of you guys say something so I can hear you and then I can enlarge you? I guess not.
Hi.
Okay, let's see. No, it doesn't work. Anyway, these are related to climate change tangentially. I wasn't quite sure. So this first artifact is a macaque type of monkey I got in Borneo. Borneo, imagine, is a bit like Congo. It's a tropical rainforest country, and they've suffered incredible logging. This is the Iban people. Actually, the Iban were headhunters in the past. They're really nice people, but they've had commercial logging, so they almost have no forest left. And it's been converted to oil palm, like you might find in Cameroon. And this soil, excuse me, this wood is called billion, and this is why I brought it. Is that in English ironwood? This wood is almost unavailable now. So the tropical rainforests in East Asia have suffered tremendously. So Borneo has many indigenous people, and they have an umbrella term called Dayak, the Dayak peoples. And the Iban are one of the Dayak peoples. And another Dayak people, so in the past, what they would do is the best way for transport was by river. They would have swidden slash and burn farms, and then they would go hunt in the forest. And they all live in a long house. They actually call a long house, and it was a communal house until about 20 years ago. This is from another Dayak people. This is they would use for hunting. It's a blowpipe. So, and this is also made from billion, very hard wood, and they would take they would make darts and take poison from an ipo tree, and they'd hunt actually for monkeys. This was from the Cayenne people, the blowpipe. And what's so sad about it is that there aren't any more ipo trees. They've lost a lot of their forests, so they've had to, in 25 years, completely change the way they live. They're lucky they have strong communities. So that's billion, the blowpipe, and the macaque monkey is as well. And as I said, loggers have gone in and cut down their forests, so there's almost nothing left. And the other ones I wanted to share with you are, let's see if you can see it, this backpack right back here, and this is were used for rice harvest. This is from the Philippines, Ifugao people, and the material of this and that backpack are rattan. The British used to call it cane. It's a palm tree that's a vine, and it needs to grow in primary, old growth forest. And this is woven. They put rice in this. This was old when I got it. I got this in 1993, and it was old. I don't know how old it was. They were going to throw it out, and I said, no, don't do that. I'll pay you for it. And I'm glad I'm glad I did. But the Ifugao also were headhunters as well. Although they're very, very, very nice, kind people, and they build beautiful, huge terraced rice fields that look like staircases coming down the mountain. So again, there's much less rattan. So what we're seeing here in this part of the world are indigenous peoples losing the ability to live life how they used to, but it's happening very, very fast. And the other interesting thing is, me living here, is I can see how the cultures relate to each other. The Ifugao and the people of Borneo, they're all very closely related. Their languages are very similar. Their migration out of Africa was the same group of people, and then they just kind of went off in all different directions. But they're all what we call Austronesian peoples. Their languages, Austronesian. Austronesian means southern island. So what's interesting about the Austronesian people, of the Iban, Filipinos, people of Borneo, people of Indonesia, people of Tahiti, Hawaii, all the way over to Madagascar off of Africa, the Malagasy. The Malagasy language is related to Asian languages. It's fascinating stuff. So they are a part of this, and they've been very kind to me, and I just wanted to learn more about the culture, and they've become friends. But the relation of this to climate change is that the materials that were used to make those, the type of wood and the rattan, you can't grow it on a farm. You have to have a healthy rainforest like in the Congo, or else you can't grow it. And all of that is threatened now by greedy people. Yeah, it's as simple as that.
Okay, those are very nice artifacts.
Thank you.
Interesting.
They're some of
Yes.
my favorite things. What's funny, I came with this into the city of Singapore. It's a very modern city, and they almost didn't let me take it because I didn't realize that this is a weapon. And they said to me, "Have you got any darts? Like it's a gun?" I'm like, "No," and they let me take it, but they almost took it away. So funny. I
And
wouldn't know how to use it.
and James, Mudasana and Frederick, when we first met earlier this summer, they brought their artifacts, And so they'll actually be creating a little self videos about their passion for climate change, and they'll have their artifacts that will include in the curriculum, and we'll definitely share it with you. Yes, guys?
Yes.
I would like that.
Great work.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And I'm wondering, I know there are people in the room, uh, in the conference room with you both. I'm wondering if any other people have any questions, any adults that are in the room. Tabitha or Agatha, do you have any questions for James? If so, we can move the monitor so we can see you. What do you think?
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Yes. Yeah, we are just so grateful that you were able to have an interview with the climate change champions. And we are looking forward to sharing more information, more stories with you. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. I love to do this. I like connecting with people. And I think they can do it. Now with
Yes.
internet, it's possible to reach out far beyond Zambia. And
Mhm.
I am more than happy to give advice on how to do that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I have a question that I was hoping they were going to ask because they had talked about it. They noticed you went to the Arctic Circle at some point. So what made you go there and how was your experience? I think in some of the posts that were shared. Yeah, I
Interesting.
think
Okay.
about
Or actually,
piggies and
I went to the Antarctic Circle, and
Antarctic.
um, it was interesting. I was invited by the Chilean Institute of Antarctic Institute of Chile, and they wanted me to document their work. And let me tell you, I felt like being on another planet, except you could breathe. Um, Antarctica is just ice and rock, and they have so very little plant life. They have moss, they have lichen, one kind of grass, and one kind of flowering plant. That's it. No trees, no fruit, no flowers, nothing. So it really opened my eyes to how fragile our life is. I mean, there's a lot of life down there, but it's more like bacteria or it's birds and life in the sea. But on land, there's very little life at all. So it really changed my perspective.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That was
I think.
interesting.
Thank you.
Hi, James.
Hi. Hi.
It's been an interesting conversation that you've had with the climate change champions, and I would just really want to appreciate for the inspiration that you've put in them, as well as the work that you keep doing around the world that's bringing in so much change. And so for me, it's just to say thank you.
It really is a pleasure. So thank you for inviting me to do this.
Mm.
And I hope that, as I said, um, let's keep this conversation going. They'll have my contact information, and if I can lend advice, I'm happy to do it.
We appreciate.
No worries.
Mm.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
I just want to thank everybody for making this possible. Mudasana and Frederick, you have such a great team around you, supporting you as you move forward. And when you do start the curriculum for your service learning project, you'll be able to use what you are learning and create a great story to share with your community.
Mhm.
So I want to thank everybody. Thank you so much, James, for being a part
Pleasure.
of this. We'll get to use some of James' photos in our curriculum, which I'm so excited about. And I'm sure we'll stay connected to James and work on some other projects as well. So I want to just again thank everyone and wish James a good night. He leaves on an expedition tomorrow morning, and wish you all a great afternoon. And I will wake up and start my day. So,
Right.
so
Thanks,
thank
guys. Really
you.
a pleasure. And it was nice to talk to you way over in Zambia. Absolutely amazing. I do hope I can get there someday. And likewise, maybe you can get to Japan someday.
Yes, we expect that.
Okay, everybody, I'll shut this
All right.
down. Goodbye, everyone.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.